Hey, what's going on? Luke here, and what a week it's been in the NRL. We had Magic Round last week, and some magic was definitely not created at the Bulldogs. We saw Trent Barrett get sacked. Hopefully we see an improvement, although the fluke is going around at the Bulldogs. But that's not important. We're going to be talking about the whole round itself. Round 11 it is. Going to be giving my tips and predictions. Let's start off with the first game. And that first game sees the Newcastle Knights at home taking on the Brisbane Broncos. I mention at home because it usually is a pretty important factor in the Knights and as well as the Broncos too, because the Broncos don't tend to travel too well. However, they are on a great win streak, including away win. So the Broncos definitely are the real deal in 2022. Speaking of teams that are the real deal, definitely not the Newcastle Knights. However, Anthony Milford comes into the side, making his debut for the Newcastle Knights up against his old club. A club that you would say he probably made his name at, the Broncos. Nearly won a premiership with them. In my opinion, was the best player in the grand final that year. He was absolutely outstanding, but really was on the decline from that moment on, really. And look, he just couldn't find his feet at the Broncos. However, he's found himself at the Knights under sort of controversial circumstances. Was signed at the Rabbitohs. Obviously, all the off-field stuff happened. He got cleared of that. He's now signed at the Knights, and I've got to say, a definite improvement on what they already have playing in the halves. However, he hasn't played in quite some time, and last time we saw him play, he was basically a fringe player anyway. So it will be interesting to see how the Knights go and how Anthony Milford goes and whether he can recapture some form. I'm not so confident he can, but look, if he's ever going to find it, it's going to be at the Knights. The Knights are crying out for someone like Milford. Ponga just needs some help, really. He hasn't really got too much help in the halves and also in the hook position. The four-pack is great for the Knights. We know that if they are on fire, well then the Knights are a chance. But for me, the Broncos, they're just so much better than the Knights at this point, and it's not even a question of tipping the Broncos. Like, it's just by how much, in my opinion. So I'm going to go Broncos 13+. Adam Reynolds going too good. The Broncos going too good. Now to the next game, which is going to be very, very interesting. It sees the West Tigers taking on my Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Now, if all of the flu sort of stuff didn't happen, and there's lots of question marks over Burton, Thompson, and Adokar as well. So with those players out, they're easily our best players. I think you've got to tip the Tigers. Even before that, I probably would have leaned towards tipping the Tigers, just in terms of thinking with my head rather than heart. I feel like the Tigers have shown way more this year than the Bulldogs. However, this is the sort of game that the Tigers really struggle with. For some reason, you take on teams like the Bulldogs, teams who are coming last, and they can never seem to just put them away. However, I feel like with Jackson Hastings there, I feel like they just got that killer instinct this year, at least compared to previous years. It's not great, but it's still better than the Bulldogs, especially if all those players are out. I know Trent Barrett's not there. I really like that move. I really do. I did a video on it. Mick Potter's taken over. Usually teams tend to fire up in the first game, and at least the first couple of games, maybe from when a coach gets sacked. They sort of want to show people that, it was his fault and it wasn't their fault, and, all that sort of stuff. However, I feel like it's just unusual circumstances because of the sickness in the squad. So I feel like this one, you've got to go Tigers. I feel like it will be fairly close. I can see the Bulldogs hanging around. You got a fair few different players coming in. Torpany's back in the side. Brent Naden lining up for the Tigers. I think he's actually on the bench, but he's there at the Tigers. Played for the Bulldogs last week, coming up against the Bulldogs this week. I'm looking at the rest of the side, like Avarillo's back into the side as well. Torpany's starting. It's kind of the same side, but also a little bit different. Different enough that if this is the exact side that runs out, I can see them competing, but I think the Tigers win this one 1-12. Next up on Friday night sees the Parramatta Eels at home taking on the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. We all know that this is a traditional rivalry game. However, I don't know if it's going to be a competitive game, especially if you go off last week, which I know it's super hard because these teams have fluctuated so much. At their peak, they've been really good. At not their peak, at their lowest, they've been incredibly bad. And we've seen Parramatta do it a couple of weeks ago. We've seen Manly do it literally last week. So it is hard to know what we're going to get. Just looking at the Manly side, like Tom Trbojevic is there, so they're a chance. However, he just doesn't look right. He really doesn't look right. And Manly in general don't look right. Something is very, very off with Manly. And Parramatta, I really want to tip him, say 13+, 100%. But they're just so inconsistent as well. They come out and they beat a team like Penrith, but then they can come out and lose to a team like the Tigers. So it is hard to know what you're going to get. For me, I feel like the Eels are actually going to win this one pretty comfortably. I am going to go 13+, but because they're so unpredictable, it just takes out that certainty. But look, Manly, they definitely have not been up to scratch this year, and I just can't see them beating the Eels. Eels 13+. The next game of the round sees the St. George Illawarra Dragons taking on the New Zealand Warriors. Now, for me, this one is quite a tough one. I feel like both of these teams are on a pretty similar level. However, I will say the Warriors, obviously, they've had 70 points put on them. They've nearly had 50 put on them a couple of weeks later. they are a team that if they play well, they play well, and I think they can test the Dragons. However, they do need to play well. They need to start strong. I feel like they need to get the lead and just hold on to the lead. I feel like the Dragons are so scrappy, they can just hold on for as long as they can. And last week, they were pretty unlucky. Really, like, Sloan made some really bad errors in Golden Point, and that pretty much cost them game in the end. They held on as long as they could. I'm surprised at that. But, yeah, some really crucial errors from the young ones. And that's what you're going to get from the young ones. They're going to be great when they're great, but also you are going to get some dumb errors. It's just part and parcel of being young and being inexperienced. But for me, I feel like the Dragons win this one. The Warriors, I feel like as much as they've signed Sean Johnson and, they've got Reece Walsh there and such, I just feel like they don't have a lot of direction. They don't have a lot of leadership on the field. And I feel like Sean Johnson was supposed to bring that to the side, and I don't think he really has. Whereas the Dragons, I feel like, have got a lot of leaders around. Some questionable ones, but I feel like they've at least got some leaders on the field who can get them into positions. They know what they want to do. And that's why I feel like the Dragons are more likely to win this one. I don't necessarily agree like, oh yeah, Dragons going to win this one 100%, but I just feel like out of these two teams, Dragons are the more likely. I think it will be close though. I think it's going to be 1-12 Dragons. Now moving on to the second game of Saturday night. You can argue this is easily match of the round. I think it is. It is the North Queensland Cowboys taking on the Melbourne Storm. Now, previous couple of weeks, even at the start of the season, over the last couple of seasons, this would be a total mismatch. Melbourne Storm winning by 40 or 50, but the Cowboys, they have been outstanding this year. Townsend, Dearden, playing really well. You got Drinkwater at the back. The Hammer can barely even find the side. That's how good the team is going. The forward pack is going good. Ruben Cotter looking like a bolter for Origin. Not even a bolter. Looks like he should be a guarantee. But this Melbourne side, let me just check exactly who's playing. Last week, they didn't have Pappenhausen, obviously, but then Jerome Hughes pulled out last minute as well. He's been named. I don't know if he'll actually end up playing. Got Marion Seve in the centres. Tyron Wishart still playing fullback. I don't know if that's a good move, especially considering Nick Meaney has played there for ages. I know he can play the wing, but he's predominantly a fullback who plays the wing rather than a winger who plays fullback. Got Tyron Wishart, who I'm not sure exactly what his position actually is. He's played everywhere, but I think he did a serviceable job. Last week was always going to be tough taking on Penrith. I think that's a bit of a write-off, especially with the last minute out of Jerome Hughes. If he's back in, I think it's going to be a very, very competitive match. I'm actually going to tip the North Queensland Cowboys for an upset. It feels weird to say an upset considering how good they're going, but tipping against Melbourne is something that I don't tend to do. A lot of people don't tend to do. At the start of the season, we say Melbourne's going to fall down the ladder, and then after the first couple of rounds, you're like, no, they're staying up there, and then you don't tip against them again. And that's pretty much a sure thing for the rest of the season, but at the moment, with the injuries they've got, and with how Cowboys have been playing, it's a home game for the Cowboys as well. I'm expecting an upset. I really am. I think Cowboys are going to ambush them. I think if you had Pappenhausen into the side, I think Storm win this one pretty comfortably, but him not being there and Jerome Hughes, a little bit of an injury cloud on him too, I feel like the Cowboys can really, really push him. At least it's going to be a competitive game, I'm hoping. So I'm going to go Cowboys 1-12. I think it'll be competitive. I think Storm will push him, but I think Cowboys get the dub. Now to the last game of Super Saturday. You can also argue that this could be match of the round. However, the form of the Roosters just hasn't really been up there this year. But we have the Roosters taking on the Penrith Panthers. Panthers absolutely outstanding last week. I had a little bit of a slip up a couple weeks ago against the Parramatta Eels, but they are back to their best. It's not too often you're going to see Penrith lose 2 in a row, and that's exactly what they didn't do, beating the Melbourne Storm. It was a great win, but also at the same time, the Roosters a really, really good win against Parramatta Eels. So, what I mean earlier, when the Eels, they're sort of hot and cold, but they take on teams like the Roosters, and they seem to turn up. And they did turn up, and they still lost to the Roosters. That's just how good of a team the Roosters can be. They just need to do it every week. Roosters definitely need to do it every week. We know what they're like when they play at their peak, but just a matter of doing it every week and doing it against sides like the Penrith Panthers. I'm really keen to see how they go. I feel like this is really going to show sort of exactly where the Roosters are. Are they on track to be as good as what I thought they were going to be this year and what a lot of people thought they were going to be? I was tipping the Roosters for the premiership, and at the moment, they look nowhere near it, and they're taking on the team that looks the most likely in the Penrith Panthers. So, look, I'm expecting this to be a very, very good game. Both teams, I think, are pretty much full strength, so on paper, this should be match of the round. I do think the Cowboys Storm is going to be a better game, but I feel like this one, in terms of like top teams up against each other, I think it is match of the round. However, I am going to be picking the Penrith Panthers to pick up a victory. I think it will be a tight one. I think Roosters definitely push him. I wouldn't be surprised if Roosters have the lead at some point in the game, but I am going to go Panthers 1-12. Now we move on to Sunday afternoon football, and the first game sees the South Sydney Rabbitohs taking on the Canberra Raiders. Now I feel like this is a pretty underrated game. I feel like with how the Raiders played last week and how the Rabbitohs have been playing throughout the season, this could be like match of the round. This genuinely could be a very, very entertaining game. A lot of entertaining players to watch. If Jack Whiten gets going, if Cody Walker gets going, this game could be anything. However, this game could also be the worst game of the round. It's just with how these teams have been playing as of late, especially the last couple of seasons for the Raiders. They've been good at times, but they've been absolutely terrible at times too. But last week was one of the good weeks for the Raiders. Played very, very well against the Sharks. Sharks very disappointing, but the Raiders very, very good. You had young Wolford coming in, making his debut. Just the team in general was, they seemed up for it. And against the Sharks, it's always hard to beat the Sharks, especially this year with Nico Hines and Finucane and McInnes and all the signings that they've made. It is hard to beat a team like the Sharks. In saying that though, I feel like the Rabbitohs are also another team that is very, very hard. And we've seen the Raiders, we've seen the lack of being able to turn up week after week. And I feel like I've said that about quite a few sides this sort of video. But I think the Raiders, they are going to struggle this week. I wouldn't be surprised if they win this one. I think your smart money is to go with the Rabbitohs because I think we've seen enough from them, especially over the last couple of seasons. I know Reynolds has been there, but we've seen enough from them that they can get the job done, especially against a team like the Raiders. However, the Raiders, I feel like, could see the Rabbitohs, they go, oh, Rabbitohs are pretty good, we've got to aim up. I feel like they're another team that suffer from taking on these shittier sides and sort of taking it easy a little bit. And even against like the real top-notch sides, Rabbitohs aren't a top-notch side at the moment, by the way. That's why I'm mentioning it. When they take on them, they also sort of tend to, not get a few calls and they let that really get to them. But I think a game against the Rabbitohs, sort of like a mid-table sort of game, I feel like this really suits the Raiders. However, I am going to be going the Rabbitohs to win this one. I think it is going to be a tight one. I feel like the Raiders will hang in there. I feel like they even might have the lead at times. Once again, I'm talking leads and all that sort of stuff. But I feel like the Rabbitohs are going to get the job done, 1-12. I think the main guys, your Cody Walkers, your Damien Cooks, I think they will step up in the right moments. Now moving on to the last game of the round, it sees the Gold Coast Titans taking on the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. Sharks very, very disappointing last week. Titans been very, very disappointing throughout the season. Definitely a lackluster year considering where they were last year. We're expecting them to improve on that. They definitely haven't improved on that. No Dave Fafita still as far as I'm aware. Yep, definitely not in the side. And for the Sharks, we see Lockheed Miller making his debut. Now he's made the swap over from Rugby Sevens. He's been looking really good in reserve grade. There was actually some talks, I'm pretty sure, about him maybe moving to the Bulldogs next year. He finally gets his chance in the NRL. I say finally as if he's been clawing for years, but he gets his chance at fullback. Nico Hines moves back into the halves. The whole Trindle experiment didn't work. And Nico Hines, great fullback at Melbourne, but it just doesn't work when he doesn't have the Melbourne players around him. So him moving back into the halves, I think, is definitely the right move. Lockie Miller, he deserves his call-up. Apparently been killing it in reserve grade. So I'm keen to see how he goes. Could be, potential sort of star. Though I think he's like 27 or 28. So he is a rookie, I guess, but he's sort of not a rookie as well. Talking about the Titans side, I thought Jaden Campbell looked really good last week. I feel like they're still lacking in the halves, but I think Jaden Campbell back into that side, I think he does add a lot. I don't really know what you do there. I feel like you're going to have Brimson at fullback, but you need Campbell at fullback too. So Brimson in the halves doesn't do it for me, but obviously he's played for Queensland. He's looked outstanding at fullback. He is a great fullback. Feels like maybe you have to cut loose one of them. I don't know. I feel like they're trying to shoehorn them into the halves, and it's not really working. However, it did kind of work last week. They did pick up the victory. Nice little try at the end there to Asako. Not the biggest fan of Asako, but it was a nice finish. A pretty standard finish, but just the fact that Titans went for the try rather than the field goal, I think it said a lot about their confidence in the game. And I did really like what I saw. I mean, like the Dragons were trying to gift them the game, let's be honest. But at the same time, Titans took the opportunity. They scored the try, got the job done. That's all that matters. Can they get the job done this game though? I don't think so. I think the Sharks are going to hit back. The Sharks have been pretty disappointing in the last month or so, I would say. They had a great start to the season. I know they've got some injuries now, but they definitely have, they've lost that little bit of shine. For ages it was like, oh, Sharks, real deal. They're going to be top 4 side. Now it's kind of like, oh, they kind of just in the same sort of position they were in last year, just with a few new faces. I don't really know. Like now it's all talk about the Broncos and stuff. So Sharks definitely worn off a little bit, but I think the Sharks are way too good for the Titans. I think they should win this one. It is a Titans home game, so I think that does factor in, but for me, Sharks win this one 13+. Anyways, guys, those are my tips and predictions for round 11 of the 2022 NRL season. Let me know in the comment section below. Do you like them? Do you rate them? Do you dislike them? Do you hate them? Let me know your tips so we can sort of compare. Maybe I can get some tips of my own. Maybe I might put a little bet on or something. I don't know. But guys, if you did happen to enjoy this video, make sure you go ahead and smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Also, make sure you use the notification bell. Don't rely on the sub boxes. Use the notification bell and never miss any of my videos. Also, while you're at it, go ahead and chuck me a follow on social media. It's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke and YT for the most part. My Facebook's Mr. Luke, but everything else, including Snapchat, including Twitter, is Mr. Luke and YT. Give me a follow, give me an ad. Also, become a member of the channel. There is 3 levels. You're seeing it on the screen right now. There's a link in the description below. Click on that. It will take you to where you go to sign up. You can take a look at the levels. You can pick one. You can just get an emoji one, or you can go even further. A couple different prices, a couple different levels. Definitely become a member of the channel. It helps me out. It supports me greatly, and it does mean a lot to have some members as well. So thank you to everybody who are already members. And guys, that's where I'm going to end this one. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more content on the channel, and I'll see you some next one. See yous.